Alrighty, hello friends, welcome into the official Talking Sports at Work mock draft. This is the full final edition. We're going to do the full first round here today. Friends, followers, fans of the show will know that a week and a half or so ago, I did the first 10 picks of the first round. I was going to try to do a series, but it just didn't pan out. You guys know how my schedule is. And so then a few days after that, I did a full version of the first round on the podcast, but this will be the first and final full edition on video that we're going to be able to do because tomorrow is Thursday, the beginning of the draft. Tomorrow is draft day, and boy, it's... for especially teams or fans of bad teams, it's one of the biggest days of the year. It's something you really, really look forward to, and none more probably than Titans fans who, you guys know how I feel about this, how I felt about this all along. There's no sense in going into it any further. I love this kid. I love everything I've seen from him. I love everything I've heard from him. He is the one thing about the Titans franchise for fans to have that gives fans hope for the first time in a long time. There's real reason to be excited about what Cam Ward is, what he can bring, what he can mean to this franchise. I even saw a thing that said Warren Moon was considering allowing him to have number 1, even though that number is retired, which I find strange personally, even though I'm wearing an Oilers shirt today. I don't think Warren Moon ever actually played a game in Tennessee. He means nothing to us. So, that'd be super cool of him to let us have that number that, I don't really fully understand why it would be retired for this franchise. I get it. It was the Houston franchise, but it's not anymore. We don't care. We don't care about what happened in Houston. I would be very happy if Warren Moon would let him have that number, and I think that would be a very cool thing to do. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. I'm excited. I'm super duper 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 excited about Cam Ward. He is the consensus, not only, top quarterback in this draft, but according to most of the experts, he's the one guy that actually is, as a prospect, a potential franchise quarterback. This is not a good quarterback draft. We've heard it all for months and beyond. But he is the one guy that all the experts agree really could be special for somebody, and he fell in our lap because the Giants lost, the Patriots lost, and we were terrible. So something to really be excited about for Titans fans. So most people agree now, because it's pretty clear at this point that's the way we're going, that the draft starts at number 2. The Browns need a quarterback, but again, what I just said still applies. So I see them taking, the generational talent, which that actually might apply here. In fact, it does. It applies here to Travis Hunter because we haven't seen anything like this dude. He says he wants to play both ways in the NFL. Look, I'm going to tell you, it's not possible. You cannot go out there and cover the Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons, or even, Calvin Ridleys and T. Higgins. You can't go out there and cover the top receivers in the NFL and then get right back out there and be a number 1 or even a number 2 receiver. But he'll figure that out, and he'll find his groove, and whatever he settles into, he's going to be a special player, I think. But I hope he can. I hope I'm wrong. It'd be cool to see something new, something we've never seen before, but, I don't see it as really being likely. But either way, this dude is a special player, a special talent, and the Browns are going to be able to find some uses for him. So, now, this is another one that's interesting because you guys probably know that all along I have not been with all the experts who have said that the Giants are not taking a quarterback at number 3. I have said I think that a lot of this stuff they've been putting out there is just smoke. I think they still, their owner said they have to get a franchise quarterback in this draft. It's his team. So I have said all along on my mocks, I've had them taking Shedeur Sanders at number 3, but honestly, the people who actually are plugged into this stuff have finally won me over. They know more than I do, and the people in Vegas are friggin' sorcerers. They know more than anyone. And so they finally changed my mind, and I'm not giving Shedeur Sanders to the Giants at 3. I have him falling down the board a bit. We'll get into that later. And I've got them doing the obvious thing and taking Abdul Carter, because it's agreed that there are pretty much, if you're not considering Cam Ward, there are pretty much 2 blue chip prospects in this draft, and it's Ward and Hunter. Or excuse me, it's Hunter and Carter. I'm not as super duper high on Carter as most people are, but he seems like a pretty sure thing at this point. and the Giants need help everywhere. So that seems to be the way that all the tea leaves are looking, and the wind's blowing, all the directions are pointing, whatever. That seems to be the way they're going, is not quarterback at number 3, and if the Browns take Carter, they'll take Hunter, and vice versa. So, moving on to the Patriots. Now, this is where it also could kind of get interesting, because most of the mock drafts I have seen have them taking Will Campbell, the tackle out of LSU. Good player. I have said all along, I don't think that's going to happen if Mike Vrabel has say in this, which I assume he has a lot of say in it, and it's because of his recent experience, which, these experts don't think about, because they don't think about anything that happens in a small market, non-successful recent team in Nashville. But if you'll recall, there was a guy who was projected as the best overall offensive lineman in the draft a couple of years ago. He was as polished as can't miss as can be, but there was one problem with him. His arms were a little bit short, and so that made people question, can he play tackle in the NFL, or will he be slotted in at guard? Well, we took him with the 11th or 12th overall pick, and he never has played a single snap at left tackle. I don't think... Now, I'm not saying Skoronski is a bust necessarily. He's a good guard, but I don't think you want to spend the 11th or 12th or whatever it was overall pick on a pretty good guard. And so, given his recent experience, Mike Vrabel with that, I don't see him taking a guy with the exact same profile as a player. I mean, everything you see and hear and read about Will Campbell, that's Peter Skoronski. I mean, he's polished, he's great all around, but he's got those short arms. Can he play tackle? Now, I'm not saying that it's going to necessarily be the same for him. They're different players, obviously. But I just think, given his recent experience, I don't think he's going to want to do that again, especially not at 4 overall. I've got the Patriots taking the guy I think is the clearest, franchise left tackle in this draft, and I think that's Kelvin Banks. I think there's no question about what position he's going to play. I think he can be a bookend franchise kind of player, become one of Drake May's new best friends. I think this could be a great pick for them, even though most people don't have him going nearly this high. I think he's got the potential to be a great player and the franchise left tackle for the Patriots. Now, I'm going to have to start moving faster, right? We're going to the Jaguars. That one, everybody's got the same thing. Now, recently we've started hearing some rumblings of, could they take Ashton Jeanty? Could they take Ted McMillan? I don't know. But, I mean, this one just seems so obvious. It's a huge need for him. He's one of the best players on the board. He's the best player at the position. I don't think they should overthink this. Now, the Raiders, again, this is something I talked about in the last one. I cannot understand for the life of me why they would take a running back when their team is nowhere nearly in a position to compete, where you would take a running back high or go spend high on a running back. That would just be ridiculous. I don't think they're that dumb. I don't think they're going to make that mistake. And I'm also not as high on Jeanty as most people, so maybe that's part of it. But I look at a guy like Pete Carroll, and I think, I gave him Will Johnson because he just reminds me of a Legion of Boom kind of corner. He's got that big body. He's great in zone. Was considered to be the number 1 corner in this draft for most of the year until the last couple of months. He's just fallen down draft boards. But I think Pete Carroll's going to look at him and see a Richard Sherman type and see a kind of guy that he loves and he had the most success with when he was, in his heyday there at Seattle with the Legion of Boom. So I'm giving them Will Johnson. Now the Jets, this one also feels pretty clear to me, and that's Armand Membu, who is a monster of a man. Now, he is a right tackle, and I've been on record in the past saying I don't think that purely right tackles maybe should go quite this high, but 7's not that high. I mean, we took Latham, what was it? Was it 7 last year? And I at the time hated that pick, and well, that's a whole other topic. But I'm very happy with it now because he's going to right tackle, which is where he belongs because Dan Moore's coming in. Anyway, the Jets took Olu Fashanu with their first-round pick last year. I think he's going to be a great left tackle for them. They put Armand Membu now with their first-round pick this year. You've got your franchise bookends for the next decade if these guys pan out, which I think they both will. That is, I am a very big offensive line guy. I think that is it's just critical to the success of your team. Maybe I'm partial because the Titans have had that throughout their history until the last few years. I don't know, but I'm just a big guy on if you can have two really good, really great tackles on each side and have your franchise bookends, especially you've got them both on rookie contracts and you're going to have them for the foreseeable future, that's a big deal for your offense, especially for a first-year head coach and a defensive guy and a quarterback who's going to be running the ball a lot. Yeah, this just makes all the sense in the world to me. Now, here's something interesting. We're getting to number 8. Now, the Saints we know are sitting there at number 9. Now, the odds and all the talk just actually as of today maybe has totally shifted away from what it had been for the previous week or so, which was the Saints need a quarterback, Shedeur Sanders at number 9, that just makes all the sense in the world, right? Well, now for some reason, the Saints love Mykel Williams is what I'm hearing. I get the sense that the Saints are the ones putting that out there. The Saints are the ones talking about how much they love Mykel Williams because they don't want it to be too obvious what they're going to do there at 9 so somebody doesn't do this. Trade alert! Hey, the Steelers! Now, this is a big jump, and I know that this isn't maybe the most likely scenario, but I don't think it's crazy by any stretch. I think the Steelers know what the position they're in. Aaron Rodgers is not the answer for you. It's just not. So, and the Panthers are in a situation where they're not a player or two away from being anything meaningful. They need a lot of help. They need picks. They need young talent to keep building this roster. Whether or not Bryce Young pans out, I mean, either way, especially if he doesn't, then they'll have an extra first-round pick for next year because to move up from 21 to 8, what I think it's going to cost is it's going to cost, obviously, the 21st pick this year. It's going to cost the Steelers' first-round pick next year and probably their third this year and something in that realm, and I think that would get it done. Now, maybe it costs more than that. Maybe it's more than just 2 firsts, and a third. I don't know, but that seems about right to me. If they give up their third-round pick, because they don't have a second-round pick this year, but the Panthers are going to want something this year for this return, and the third is the best they've got, so they give their first-rounder next year, they give their first and then third this year, and for a team that's already as good as the Steelers are, I think that's worth it. If you can get the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft, the guy who will undoubtedly walk in the door and be the best quarterback that you have had since Ben Roethlisberger, I just think this makes a lot of sense for me. The Steelers, go get Shedeur Sanders. I like Shedeur Sanders. I think he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Is he going to win an MVP? Probably not, but I do think he's the kind of guy who will be a starter for many years, can lead a good team to some success, can make some Pro Bowls, and just be one of those really good, reliable franchise quarterbacks. And with a team like the Steelers, with a coach like Mike Tomlin, I mean, this could really be something that would help the Steelers certainly be not just in playoff contention next year, but if he really develops and plays well early, they could really do something. I just think this makes a ton of sense for both sides. Again, and because the Panthers, look, they know what next year's pick is going to be. They know they're getting the Steelers' first-round pick next year, and even no matter what, it's not going to be any better than somewhere in the high teens because they're the Steelers. They never have bad seasons. That's also the reason why the Steelers need to make this move. They're never going to earn a pick that's going to put them in a position to draft a franchise quarterback. Not as long as they have Mike Tomlin as their coach because he doesn't have losing seasons. They just keep being good enough. And without a quarterback, good enough is just, what is it? It's mediocre. But anyway, that's my spiel on that. I think this actually could make a ton of sense. And I think the Steelers know that despite all this talk, the Saints would grab him if he's sitting there at 9. So, he's not anymore, though. The Saints lost out on the guy that they say they didn't want. So they're going to go ahead and take the guy they say they wanted, right? That's Mykel Williams. I've got him, even before this stuff started with the Saints, I expected him to go ahead of Jalen Walker just because I think he's more of a fit an actual edge rusher. I think Jalen Walker, I don't know that he's going to be just a pure defensive end, outside linebacker, edge rusher sort of guy. He played a lot of linebacker. He played a lot of off-ball linebacker. He played all over the field. He was a sort of Micah Parsons type, which, is obviously a great thing, but I don't know that he's necessarily going to be quite that good. But Mykel Williams just fits the prototype. He's got the body. He's got the athleticism. He's got all the physical tools. He's a Georgia guy, so he was coached well. So I think the Saints, even though they say they didn't really want Shedeur Sanders anyway, and this is the guy they wanted, I think they might be a little bit disappointed, but hey, he's still a really good player for them. Now, the Bears, I think they are in a position to take a running back, especially given what they've got. They've got talent. They've got a pretty good roster. They've got a young quarterback with all the talent and potential in the world, and they've got a coach now who is offensive minded, who's kind of the prince who was promised as far as coaches go. Everybody's been waiting for him for a long time now. And here he is. He's taken the job he wanted. And what did he have his most success with? It was with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Now you get Ashton Jeanty to go along with what they've got in DeAndre Swift, and he can do the same sorts of things with the Bears. This pick just makes all the sense in the world to me as well. So, moving on to the next round of picks, number 11 through 20. We've got up first is the 49ers. And I've got them taking Ted McMillan. Now, honestly, there are a lot of ways that they could go with this pick, and I think every time I've done this, I've given the 49ers something else, but it's just because they've lost so many players. This window that they had is now closed. They now are no longer in the Brock Purdy rookie quarterback window. They tried to go out and win a Super Bowl while they could, and I'm not saying that it's over for them. I'm just saying this is now the beginning of a new era for the 49ers, and an era in which they're going to have to start stocking up on some really good, young, talented players on rookie contracts. He's the consensus number one receiver in the draft, and if they get him at 11, I think that's great, especially since they just lost Deebo Samuel, and they need weapons for this quarterback. Now, moving on to 12, this is where I think Jalen Walker would make a ton of sense. Now, I know everybody has the Cowboys wanting a receiver, but if McMillan's off the board, I don't know how. I think McMillan would actually pair great with CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if Matthew Golden pairs quite as well with him, but maybe, I don't know. But either way, this defense was horrible. Horrible! The offense, yeah, they've got their problems. They need help on the offensive line. They need another receiver. They need a running back. They need to learn how to stop the run, or none of that's going to matter. You get a guy like Jalen Walker with his versatility, who, again, my comp for him would be Micah Parsons. And now you've got two of those guys. You've got a guy who can line up on the edge. You've got a guy who can line up inside, who can line up at linebacker, off the ball. Now the defense has to pay attention to two of those guys. That's actually something impactful for the Cowboys, more so than I think any one receiver, certainly any running back that's left on the board could give them, or offensive lineman. I think this would be a great pick for the Cowboys there at 12. Now at 13, this is where I could see Will Campbell going. Even though, we're unsure about what he's going to play, the Dolphins just need to protect Tua. They lost their left tackle, obviously, so they hope that Will Campbell could be the guy to replace him. But even if he's not, they just lost two guards off-season before last, and they didn't really do a good job of replacing them. So no matter what position Will Campbell ends up playing, they need help on the offensive line, and he will bring it. He'll be a good player at some position, and they need it. Now, the Colts at 14, this is another one that, given the way the board's shaking out, it just seems obvious. Tyler Warren. You're going to give Anthony Richardson one more year. My thoughts on him have been made clear, I think, all along, but they're going to give him one more chance to prove it. Give him some more weapons. Give him the best tight end, one of the best overall players in this draft, and he's still sitting there at 14. He can do everything on a football field. He's so versatile. He's a great player. This would be the perfect pick and the perfect way for the board to shake out, I think, for the Colts. Now, the Falcons, they need help at pass rusher. James Pierce Jr. Now, opinions on him obviously vary pretty greatly, but I just think they're going to look at that upside, look at this athleticism, look at what he can do. I mean, and I don't know why he's fallen so far. I mean, I get that he didn't put up the sack numbers that people expected, but he was number 2 in the country last year in pressure rate. He had a good year, and he was also doing things. I've talked about that a lot. I'm not going into all that again. But anyway, the Falcons, I think, would be very lucky to get James Pierce there at 15. And I think they would be very happy to finally have an elite pass rusher, because that's been just a weakness of this team for years now. The Cardinals. Now, this is where Matthew Golden, I think, could really make sense and pair really well to one of last year's first-round picks, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. That would give them an elite duo at wide receiver for years to come. I think that would really be something good for Kyler Murray, obviously, and good for that franchise. Moving a little faster now, the Bengals, Shamar Stewart. This is where I think we're going to see a little mini run on the edge rushers a bit, because there are a lot of potentially really good ones that are going to be in the first round here. He is one that has honestly as much upside as any of them, including Pierce and Carter, but he didn't really produce in college. That's the problem. Somebody's going to see this guy and think, I can get the most out of him. I can get him to play up to his potential. Is it Lou Anarumo and whoever their defensive line coach is? Is it the Bengals? Maybe. But somebody's going to be willing to take a chance on him. He's got all the physical talent you could want, and so I've got him going 17th to the Bengals. Now, 18th for the Seahawks. They need offensive line help. I don't think their tackle spot is as bad as maybe it might seem. They have some injury issues there, and it's been maybe recurring, but either way, they need help at multiple positions on the offensive line, it seems like, and Tyler Booker is the best guard in this draft, and at 18, that does not seem like a stretch or a reach at all for a position of need. Get him. The Buccaneers now, this is another one, just makes all the sense in the world. Jihad Campbell, I had seen him on other mock drafts as well, because it just makes so much sense. I mean, this is a guy that you could put right next to Levante David that would be perfect for Todd Bowles' system, and then could be the eventual successor to Levante David. So, then we've got the Broncos at 20. This is another one that I'm going to tell you, I love this kid. Amarian Hampton, I think, could be like, I like him personally more than Genty. Like, I think Amarian Hampton is maybe the best running back in this draft. I don't know that the Broncos are necessarily good enough to where this is what they should do with this pick, but I think mock drafts are not about what you think teams should do. They're about what do you think they're going to do. And from everything we've heard, Sean Payton really wants a running back in this draft, and the at worst second best one is still sitting there for you at 20. Go get him. I mean, this dude is special. He is built like a friggin' Greek god. He is a thumper, but he's got great breakaway speed, great balance, great athleticism, and he can catch the ball and block. He can stay out there on third down as well. He's a modern 3-down back for a guy who's that big and, looks like such a classic run between tackles thumper. He's a modern back. Moving on. Now, how long have I been talking? Yeah, we're good. I probably need to move faster. So now here we are at 21. And you can see. We're at 21. This is originally it was the Steelers pick. Now it belongs to the Panthers. They moved back, and they still managed to get one of the best defensive backs in the draft in Jahdae Barron. Now, some people think he's the best corner, not Travis Hunter. I still think Will Johnson might have the edge, but I think it's close. So if the Panthers drop all that, move down 21 spots, I mean, they could go any number of ways with this pick. They need a lot of help, but they see maybe the best corner in this draft. That's a position of need for them. Get him. Now, the Chargers at 22. Now, this one was kind of too easy once the board shook out the way it did for me. Give Harbaugh one of his guys, right? Colston Loveland out of Michigan. This is a weapon for Justin Herbert. At first, I wanted to give them a wide receiver, but I just don't know at 22 if Ibuka or Burden necessarily is a guy that Jim Harbaugh would go. They might be feeling like that's a bit of a reach for them. I don't know. But Colston Loveland is an elite tight end prospect. He's got the obvious connections there. He would be a great addition for this team, and he would be a great new weapon for Justin Herbert, which is something he desperately needs. Now at 23, excuse me, originally I had the Packers taking a corner here, but given that Johnson and Barron are both off the board, and it feels like there's a little bit of a drop-off after them, I think they're going to go with the sack leader in FBS last year. They need help rushing the passer as well, and that's Mike Green out of Tulane. Excuse me. So then the Vikings, they're NFC North rivals. This was another one that just seemed like the board just fell the perfect way for the Vikings because Malachi Starks is one of the best overall football players that we've got in this draft. He doesn't play, but the position he plays has obviously decreased in value significantly over the last few years. But the best safety sitting there on the board. You need a new safety to replace what you lost, and this would be a perfect kind of Brian Flores player. Malachi Starks to the Vikings. And then also, I think this actually worked out really well for the Texans because they end up with a player who I also think is very underrated and actually might not even still be available right here. But in this mock draft, they get Josh Simmons, who could end up being the best tackle in this draft, but because of injuries, he's fallen down the board pretty significantly. If it had not been for his injuries, he'd be a top 10 pick. And I think he'd be going ahead of Campbell and Banks. And if the Texans, who need to protect C.J. Stroud, their offensive line was already terrible last year, and then they traded away the one good player they had on the offensive line, this one is just too, it kind of works out perfectly for them, though, the way the draft board shook out. Now, the Rams. Now, in the last one, if you listen to it, I actually gave them Jalen Milroe. That was kind of just me wishing because I would love to see what Sean McVay could do with him. If there's anybody who could actually get his potential out of him, I think it would be Sean McVay. But, then this one, I try to just, be a little bit more realistic about things, and I don't think that's the way they would go at 26 because right now, they're still in a contending position. They're still in a position to where, they're probably going to be in the playoffs. They might can make a run. And so what would help them? I think a guy like Luther Burden, who is a Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown type of physical receiver, put the ball in his hands and let him go to work. I think McVay could have a lot of fun with a guy like this. I think Stafford would love a new weapon, especially with Kupp gone, and now all they've really got is Puka, and I don't even know who else. So give them Luther Burden. That's a good pick. At 27, the Ravens also need help on the offensive line, and Gray Zabel is... Some people have him rated ahead of Booker. I don't necessarily, but he's at worst the second best just pure guard. He's very versatile. He played, I think, pretty much every position on the offensive line at some point during his time in college. He played at, was it South Dakota State, North Dakota State, one of those. It was a small school, but he's a guy who I think could come in and have a good, big impact, be a day one starter for them. And, at 27, what more could you really hope for? Now, at 28, the Lions. I've got them taking the other Texas A&M defensive lineman, defensive end, edge rusher. Nick Skouertson's a guy who I think is more of he's a bigger guy. I don't know that he's necessarily an edge rusher or defensive lineman, but I think he could do either or. And kind of like someone like Aiden Hutchinson. He'd be a great addition to put on the other side of Hutchinson, or let him spell him, or, put them next to each other. You've got that versatility now. I think this could be a very good pick for the Lions. Excuse me. The Commanders at 29, they need more receivers. They need more weapons for their elite young quarterback, and Emeka Egbuka is a good, versatile, reliable receiver. He may not blow you away necessarily with any of his physical traits and his speed and whatever, but he's just reminds me of like what C.J. Stroud was a few years ago. I just remember saying he's just good at everything. He doesn't wow you necessarily at anything, but there's just no real weakness in his game. He's just good at everything. And I kind of see Emeka Egbuka as being similar, and putting him along with Terry McLaurin, who is, an elite deep threat and one of the better receivers in the league, that's a good duo. Now, here's the Buffalo Bills. Excuse me. Now, I think they would love this as well if a guy like Derek Harmon just fell in their lap, who is a very good, one of the better defensive linemen in this draft. And I think in this mock draft, the only other interior defensive lineman I have off the board at this point is Mason Graham. Is that right? That can't be right. I mean, unless you count Nick Scourton, I don't know. But if a guy like Derek Harmon, who's one of the top 2-3 interior defensive linemen, which is a premium position in the NFL now, which has really just increased in the importance, getting pressure up the middle over the last few years, and it's a position in need for them, I think this would be great for Buffalo. Now at 31, the Kansas City Chiefs, come on, we all know what they need. There's one tackle still on the board that I think is borderline first round worthy, and that's Josh Conerly out of Oregon. I don't think they have to think too much about this one. Now, they would love if Josh Simmons fell in their lap here, but in this mock draft, that doesn't happen. Conerly's a guy that has starting, could be long-term left tackle potential, and excuse me, I think this would just be the kind of no-brainer pick for them. Now, at number 32, we've got another surprise for you. Oh, it's a trade. So I'm sorry if there are actually any Eagles fans watching this and you wanted to know what I thought your team might do. You don't get to know. But this is something I do think is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be 32, but I did this because it just seems like the Eagles kind of thing to do, right? Even though, people expect them to maybe move up some, Howie Roseman is just going to make some moves. It doesn't necessarily mean trading up in the first round. He's going to make some moves that are going to give his team value, going to put his team in the best position, going to give him an even better roster than what they already have. It's just what they do. And in this position, they take advantage of a division rival and get extra picks from the Giants to only have to move back 2 spots. Now, in this case, I think it probably costs like a third round, to move back up into the first. But if the Eagles say they're willing to give us a third round pick and we only have to go back 2 spots, and we're not picking a quarterback here, so the fifth-year option isn't that big of a deal. I think the Eagles would be very wise to do that, and I think the Giants would be wise to do it as well. Even though they need their picks, they need a quarterback. And look, is it Jackson Dart? Is it Tyler Shuck? Jalen Miller? I'm not a Jackson Dart fan. I look at him and I see Kenny Pickett. I'm not a Jackson Dart fan at all. I think he was very good at running a very good college offense. That Lane Kiffin RPO offense, he was very efficient in it, except in the big games. He wasn't always great, but I don't know that he's an NFL quarterback. Tyler Shuck, I honestly didn't watch him that much. I mean, he's got the physical prototype, he's got the tools, but he also had some injuries, and that kept him in college a bit longer, and, I don't know. The guy that I will say has as much upside, undoubtedly, of any quarterback in this draft, including Cam Ward, is Jalen Milroe. The one other guy I think that would be worth a first-round pick, other than Sanders and Ward, is Milroe, and that's because of what he could be. Now, would Brian Daboll be the guy to get out of him? I don't know. Would anybody? But if you're going to tell me that Anthony Richardson, who sucked at Florida, I don't know what anyone ever saw that made them think he was worth the 4th overall pick. If you're going to tell me that guy was worth the 4th overall pick a couple of years ago, then you can't tell me Jalen Milroe is not a late first-round pick. Jalen Milroe is basically a smaller, faster version of Anthony Richardson, except he was actually good in college. He was actually a good quarterback in college. He's a smart kid. He's a super high-character guy. He's got a rocket for an arm. He's going to be one of the fastest guys on the field. I just think if this is somewhere that I don't know that this is the perfect place for him to go to New York. I think maybe there would be too much pressure on him early. I think he would be better off going somewhere where he could sit and learn for a year or two and develop. Maybe the Giants are able to do that. Maybe they're able to start Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston and let Milroe relax for a little bit. Do Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen have that much time? I don't know. But I think they know that their owner said we need to get a quarterback. I think Jalen Milroe has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in the draft, maybe even higher than Cam Ward's. I don't know. I mean, realistically, Cam Ward is obviously the better prospect, but just with the physical abilities that Milroe has and the smarts he has, it's just, I think he's a first-round caliber quarterback if any of those guys are. I think it's him. And the Giants are the one team that should be desperate enough, even though they went and got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Come on, that's not your answer. That's not going to be saving anybody's jobs. This guy could be the answer, could be the future in New York if you're able to develop him properly. So, that's it. Hey, what did we manage? 34 minutes? That's not bad for as much as I like to ramble. So, we'll just do a quick recap. We've got... We've got the Titans taking Cam Ward, the Cleveland Browns taking Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter to the Giants, Kelvin Banks to the Patriots, Mason Graham to the Jags, Will Johnson to the Raiders, Armand Membu Jets, the Steelers trading up from 21 to 8 to take their quarterback of the future and the present, I think, in Shedeur Sanders, a guy that would be great for them. And then the Saints say that this is who they wanted all along, and that's Mykel Williams. The Bears get their version of Jahmyr Gibbs and Ashton Genty. Tetairoa McMillan's the number one receiver going to the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. Jalen Walker's a versatile defensive player for the Cowboys. The Dolphins get offensive line help. The Colts get their number one tight end. The Falcons get an elite edge rusher in James Pierce. The Cardinals get my personal favorite receiver in this draft in Matthew Golden. The Bengals get Shamar Stewart, who's, we'll see. I mean, come on. He's got all that talent. Somebody's going to draft him, and somebody's probably going to draft him in the first round. This is maybe high. I don't know. Anyway, we talked about it. Tyler Booker to the Seahawks. Jihad Campbell goes to learn from and then replace Levante David. The Broncos get the beast that is Amarian Hampton. The Panthers, with their original Steelers pick, get Jahdae Barron. Colston Loveland gets to go be with Jim Harbaugh, reunited again. The Packers get Mike Green. The Vikings, Malachi Starks. Josh Simmons, Ohio State tackle, to Houston. The Rams get Luther Burden. Ravens get Gray Zabel. The Lions get Nick Scouerton. Emeka Egbuka goes to play alongside Scary Terry and play with Jaden Daniels, catch the ball from him. The Bills get Derek Harmon to push the pocket. The Chiefs get Josh Connolly to protect the pocket. And the Giants and the Eagles take a little bit of advantage of their NFC East rivals. And the Giants get their quarterback of the future, hopefully, in Jalen Milroe. That's it for me, guys. I hope everyone enjoyed. Like, subscribe, share it, tell your friends about it. We'll talk to you again soon. Love you. Bye.